I discovered my girlfriend was having a long-term affair with her married boss. When I confronted her, she dismissed it as just physical. I responded by calmly packing her bags and simultaneously initiating a strategic takedown. I alerted the boss's wife and sent every piece of evidence, photos, texts, hotel charges, to human resources. They thought their corporate lunch was a safe zone. Instead, it became the public tribunal where their careers and marriages ended. My name is Owen, I'm 33 years old, and I work in cybersecurity within a hospital system just outside Chicago. While it might sound exciting, my routine is quite technical. I monitor servers, perform security audits, and prevent any ransomware group from trying to paralyze medical records. I spend hours reviewing logs, addressing alerts, and explaining to doctors why they can't use 123 as a password to access sensitive information. It's a stable, well-paying job with benefits that truly matter once you're past 30. I'm one of those guys who organizes his life so nothing slips through. On Sundays, I prep my meals for the week: chicken, rice, and vegetables, ordered in containers that last until mid-Wednesday. I hit the gym on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays after work, plus Saturday mornings. I track all my streaming subscriptions on a spreadsheet because it deeply annoys me to pay for services I don't use. My apartment is always tidy, not obsessively, but functionally. My car gets its oil changes on time, and I file my taxes early. It might sound boring, but it's a lifestyle that works for me. My dad, George, taught me to value that stability. He was a mail carrier for 30 years in the same neighborhood. He retired at 62 and now spends his time working with wood in the garage and spoiling my sister's kids. George used to tell me when I was in college, "Boring men pay their bills on time and sleep soundly. The exciting ones end up explaining themselves to judges and creditors." That idea stuck with me. My girlfriend, Chloe, 31, was almost the antithesis of that, but in a way that initially felt refreshing. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized company downtown, one of those that manufactures industrial parts nobody thinks about, but everyone needs. Always impeccable, always in heels and a blazer, always operating at a pace that made her thoughts seem 3 steps ahead of her voice. She had 3 simultaneous projects at any given time. Where I was methodical, she improvised. Where I planned, she charged ahead without looking back. That difference balanced us for 4 years. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. We shared rent, alternated who cooked, and had entered that stage where you no longer try to impress the other person every minute. You simply coexist. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party. I was helping assemble furniture, because assembly required usually means an engineering degree is needed. And Chloe arrived late with expensive bottles and started rearranging the living room because the flow was all wrong. We talked for 3 straight hours about urban planning, the best pizza places in Chicago, and how each of us saw our future. She was funny, quick, sharp. She questioned without being aggressive. The first year was excellent. Restaurants, alternating movies, deep talks until 2 a.m. She dreamed of rising in the marketing world or even founding her own agency. I imagined moving into a management role and perhaps teaching cybersecurity at the community college. Nothing rushed, no children anytime soon, no serious wedding plans. Chloe said she wanted to achieve certain professional goals before being someone's wife. I respected that without issue. I thought we had time. My friend Jake met her and told me, "She's great, but she has that energy of someone who's always looking for the next thing." I dismissed it as a projection of his recent breakup. It would have been better to listen to him. Her boss was Marcus, a guy in his early 40s, married with 2 kids. I had seen him once at a company picnic, a year after Chloe and I started dating. I remember his strong handshake, his exaggerated laugh, and his ridiculously expensive watch. He was the type who monopolizes conversations without noticing he's suffocating everyone else. He talked to me for 20 minutes about his weekend golf game while Chloe smiled as if she had no other choice. I thought he'd be exhausting as a colleague, but harmless. Just another manager who talked more than he did. But Chloe talked about him constantly. Marcus thinks this campaign could be revolutionary. Marcus says I'm the most creative in the department. Marcus thinks I have the potential to lead projects. Initially, I was happy she had a superior who recognized her effort. In my job, my boss communicates almost exclusively through automated emails and good job sticky notes, so someone giving her real attention felt almost like a luxury. But things started to change slowly, almost imperceptibly. Just like when you drive past the same place every day, and one morning you notice a tree is gone, but you have no idea when it disappeared. The I have to stay late days became more frequent. She'd text me at 7 p.m. when I was already cooking for both of us. Marcus needs me to stay and brainstorm new ideas. I'd end up eating dinner alone, saving her a plate, and she'd arrive around 10 or 11, nibble the cold food, and check her phone while I tried to talk. When I asked about these supposed presentations, she'd answer vaguely, "It went well. You know how these things are." But no, I didn't know. And still, I let it go. She started coming home with gifted wines. And not just any wine. Bottles between $80 and $100, some in leather boxes. Marcus insisted I take it. The client gave him 3. And he doesn't like red wine. It seemed strange that a client would give such expensive gifts, but Chloe justified it. In manufacturing, these gestures are normal. They handle enormous budgets for commercial relations. At the time, the explanation seemed reasonable. It wasn't. Over several months, I started noticing a pattern that didn't seem alarming then, but today I know was the sign that something much bigger was brewing. Work dinners became frequent, almost routine. Added to that were networking events, informal meetings with industry people, industry mixers, strategy sessions, and any excuse that justified the need to stay out longer. Every 2 weeks, a new commitment arose that she had to attend. Occasionally, I offered to join her. I always received the same response, said with a smile that I understand better now. "It's incredibly boring, honestly. Just technical conversations and work people talking about the same old stuff. You wouldn't like it." So I stayed home, catching up on my shows or making simple dinners, waiting for her to return. When she came back, her clothes smelled of expensive restaurants, and she recounted encounters that always sounded vague, as if the details slipped through the cracks. She never went into depth about anything, only commenting that it had been exhausting. Gradually, her phone, which used to rest face up on the living room table while we watched something together, started appearing face down. Sometimes it would buzz past midnight. "It's the team chat," she'd murmur without opening her eyes, rolling over. "One night I made an innocent joke. 'Your team never sleeps if they're texting at 1 a.m. She didn't flinch, only replied something about time differences and international clients. The funny thing is, her company had no operations outside the country. That was just one of many small changes that, combined, began to worry me. I found new underwear she never wore with me. There were different perfumes, scents that weren't there when she left in the morning, but were when she returned at night. Suddenly, some work trips, previously brief, stretched by 1 or 2 days because the client requested another meeting. She also signed up for a gym with a personal trainer, though I never saw her come back truly exhausted or comment on progress. She'd leave in workout clothes, but there were no signs she actually trained. One day during a game night, Jake casually asked me, "Hey, is everything okay with Chloe?" "She seems distracted." He didn't look up from the screen when he said it, as if he didn't want to invade my personal space. I tried to justify her, assuring him she was stressed about a possible promotion, and that it was normal for her to be a bit distant. He just replied, "Cool, man, just checking in." However, his comment lingered in my head. On a Tuesday in early March, she dropped a bomb so calmly that it took me a few seconds to process it. She was brushing her teeth when she spoke, with foam at the corner of her lips. "This weekend, I'm going to an off-site strategy retreat," she announced, as if mentioning she'd be late for dinner. "It's the marketing team. Marcus is organizing it. We'll probably finish very late, so the most practical thing is to stay at a nearby hotel." I felt a knot in my stomach. "A strategy retreat on a Saturday?" I asked, trying to sound neutral. "Yes," she replied in the same light tone. "We're launching a big campaign next month. The whole team is under a lot of pressure with it." She then rinsed her face with the towel I had bought only a week ago and added, "Don't wait up for me. I'll text you when we finish." None of that added up. In our work, training and drills were announced well in advance. Plus, they were always conducted during business hours. We only worked on weekends if a serious incident occurred, like a server being down. What Chloe was saying didn't sound like a real work requirement. It sounded more like a cover story, improvised by someone who was confident I wouldn't question anything. That same night, while we were watching a home renovation show, she fell asleep on the sofa. I was in the kitchen cleaning dishes when her phone vibrated on the coffee table. The screen lit up just enough for me to read the preview from where I stood. I could still feel you inside me all day. The notification came from a contact saved as Office. The impact was physical. I stood motionless with a damp cloth in my hand, staring at those words that seemed unreal. My first impulse was to wake her up and force her to explain what I was reading, demand names, dates, reasons. But the second impulse, much colder and more rational, stopped me. I needed to be smart, not emotional. I couldn't react without concrete proof. I put down the cloth, went to the sofa, and carefully picked up the phone. The facial unlock worked without a hitch. She was asleep at the perfect angle. I went straight to the messages. The thread with Office filled the entire screen. I started scrolling up, feeling my stomach clench with every line. There he was, Marcus. They hadn't been sporadic messages, but complete weeks of conversations, photos, intimate comments, coordinated plans. There was even a video recorded 2 nights earlier called Thinking of You, which I didn't have the courage to open. Chloe appeared in lingerie she had never worn with me. Expensive, black lace, totally new, obviously bought for him. I found messages detailing how they should organize their encounters. Tell him it's a team meeting. I already booked our usual room at the downtown Marriott, 814 up. She replied, adjusting schedules like a military strategist. Owen has his gym routine until 7, then he meets Jake. I can get there by 8:30. They had built an entire logistics around my life, my habits, and my schedules, treating them as obstacles, as if I were an annoying variable to be circumvented. There were weeks of hotel confirmations forwarded from her email, inside jokes about keeping things discreet, and comments from her saying I was boring or that my predictability made it easier for them to meet. Marcus promised to leave his wife when his kids were older. Chloe told him that lying to me was exciting. In one of the most painful messages, from just 3 weeks prior, she wrote, Owen cooked dinner and asked about my day. I had to invent a meeting, when in reality, I could only think about you inside me this afternoon. Is it bad that lying to him gives me a little adrenaline? I methodically captured everything, as if I no longer had emotions. 6 weeks of chats, photos, hotel reservations, schedules, everything. I sent it to my personal email in groups of 10 images to ensure I didn't miss anything. It took me about 20 minutes to gather all the evidence. Then I returned the phone to the exact position it was in, face down on the table. I sat there for a long time in the dark, trying to assimilate what I had discovered. All the times I cooked for her, asked about her day, trusted her blindly, it had all been disregarded, dismissed, and replaced by a carefully organized double life. When Chloe stirred around 11 p.m., I told her I was going to bed. She mumbled something about joining me later and continued watching her show. In the bedroom, which suddenly felt alien, I turned on my laptop. I searched for Marcus on LinkedIn. His full name appeared in some work emails that had passed through our shared computer, and that's where everything began. From that point, a kind of personal investigation began that I never imagined undertaking. After reviewing what I already knew, I continued to probe and ended up finding Marcus's Facebook profile. I don't know what I expected to see, but what appeared on the screen immobilized me. His main photo looked like it was from an advertising campaign. He, his wife, and their 2 children posed in front of the sea at what was clearly an elegant resort, all dressed in white linen shirts, illuminated by the golden light of the sunset. It was that kind of polished image people post when they want the world to believe everything in their life is perfect. I could almost hear the click of the professional camera they surely used for that session. Marcus's wife was named Catherine, according to the photo tag. Her profile was almost completely private, as if she had had a premonition that one day she would need some protection. But still, Facebook Messenger allowed me to send her a message. I opened the window, let the cursor blink, and stared at my own reflection on the screen for several minutes. What are you supposed to say to someone you don't know about such a delicate situation? How do you explain that the person with whom she has built a family is cheating on her with your girlfriend? My stomach was in knots, and every time I thought about the children who had smiled so naturally in that photo, I felt that remaining silent was equal to participating in the lie. I wrote 3 short, direct sentences and pressed send before I could change my mind. Hi, Catherine. You don't know me, but we need to talk about Marcus and Chloe. I have proof. I felt a strange emptiness after doing it, like when you jump without seeing where you'll land. I closed the laptop, threw myself onto the bed without changing out of my work clothes, and stared at the ceiling in complete silence. Hours passed, but sleep wouldn't come. Only more questions, more scenarios, more doubts about how I was going to face all this. Around 2 a.m., my mind finally gave way, and I fell asleep. The next morning, Friday, I turned on my phone during my break at work. I was sitting in my car, parked in the hospital's huge garage, when I saw that Catherine had seen my message. The writing indicators appeared on the screen, remained there for a few seconds. And then the reply came. Who are you? What is this about? I took a deep breath before answering, trying to write without trembling. My name is Owen. Chloe is my girlfriend. Yesterday I found messages between her and Marcus. A lot of them. I don't want to hurt you. I just think you deserve to know the truth. 3 minutes later, the phone started ringing. Unknown number. I'm Catherine, said a firm, contained voice that showed no trace of panic. Do you have screenshots? Yes, several, I replied. Send them to this email, she dictated with the same precision someone accustomed to handling tense situations would use. I'll review them, and then we'll talk. I was still in the car when I forwarded everything. Screenshots of messages, photos, conversations where they laughed about their supposed strategy sessions, messages written from hotels, the jokes about me, the comments where they called me a network guy, and Chloe laughed at how little I questioned. Reviewing all that a second time was like drinking poison, but I didn't hold anything back. Catherine replied about an hour later. Thank you. It's worse than I imagined. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know who. Can we talk tonight? We ended up talking that same night. I was sitting in a coffee shop parking lot, with the darkness enveloping the car and the phone screen illuminating my face. She spoke with a calm that only comes when someone has already suffered too much. I've suspected for months, she confessed. The late nights, the deleted messages. He would come home smelling of a perfume that wasn't mine and said it was from a client who had hugged him. Once he said a woman's name in his sleep, and when I asked him, he swore it was a colleague he had been brainstorming with. I didn't know what to say at first. The only thing I could think of was, I am so sorry. It's not your fault, she replied without hesitation. You didn't cause anything. This is on them, and I do not plan to stay married to someone who treats me this way. There was a brief silence before she resumed, this time with a determination that was almost palpable. Their company has strict policies about relationships with subordinates. If this is properly reported, both of them will lose their jobs. But first, I want one thing. Her voice hardened slightly. I want a confrontation without screaming, without denials, without manipulation. I want Marcus to see that we already know, and that he won't be able to hide behind excuses. And I want it to happen in a place where he can't escape. From there, we drew up a detailed plan. The company where they worked was having its quarterly meeting the following week. It was a big event. After the presentations, there would be a buffet-style lunch in the main atrium, which family and partners could attend. We agreed to meet 10 minutes before lunch, right next to the entrance doors. The morning of the event, I dressed in the navy blue shirt Chloe used to praise so much. I thought that if I was going to step into the place where they had built their lie, I should at least walk in with dignity. I drove to the corporate park and parked far from the entrance, trying to maintain a calm I didn't feel. The building, with its glass panels and metal columns, seemed built to intimidate. When I walked in, Catherine was already there, standing next to a huge decorative planter. She wore a simple, elegant black dress, blending in, and her hair was pulled back in a neat bun. As soon as she saw me, she approached and extended her hand. "Owen, thank you for telling me the truth," she whispered. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but better now than in 10 years. We positioned ourselves where we could see the atrium doors. A few minutes passed, and the quarterly meeting ended. A river of employees began to flow out toward the lunch area. Then I saw her, Chloe, in a bright red blazer, walking next to Marcus. They were laughing. She touched his arm with a familiarity that chilled me to the bone. That casual gesture made me realize that there was nothing left of the person I thought I knew. Catherine stepped forward firmly. "Marcus." He turned, and his face completely transformed. The smile vanished. His eyes darted from Catherine to me, and then to Chloe, who was petrified mid-laugh. "Cat, what are you—" "We came to talk about your strategy sessions," she interrupted him. "The ones you had in hotels." Chloe's gaze locked onto me as if she had been hit. "Owen, what are you doing with her?" I pulled out my phone and opened a screenshot that clearly showed Marcus's name, an intimate photo of Chloe, and a message that read, "Same room as last time. I love how you look against the headboard." I held the screen so both of them could see it. "This is what it's about." I watched all the color drain from Chloe's face. Marcus clenched his jaw so hard the muscle bulged. "What were you doing going through my phone?" Chloe lashed out, using aggression as a shield. Catherine spoke first. "He was finding out why his girlfriend was booking hotel rooms with my husband, while you two used us as an excuse." Marcus stepped toward her, trying to regain some control. "Can we talk about this at home?" "No, not here." Catherine didn't raise her voice, but her refusal cut the air. "We will talk about it here. You don't get to cheat in secret and then pretend the truth should be discussed behind closed doors." People around began to quiet down. Several heads turned. Some whispers started to form. Chloe looked at me with contained tears, mixing confusion, anger, and fear. "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," I replied. "I have months of messages, photos, dates, and times that match every late meeting you made up for me." The silence that followed was absolute, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that the truth was finally coming out, without masks, without excuses. Her voice was still tense, almost cutting, although tears were already forming in her eyes. "You could have talked to me," she protested. "You didn't have to involve his wife." I looked at her without looking away. "She became part of the problem the moment you slept with her husband." Marcus stepped toward us and put a hand on Chloe's shoulder, trying to move her away so the scene wouldn't escalate. "Let's go upstairs and sort this out privately," he proposed with the nervous urgency of someone who knows the situation is falling apart, but Catherine had no intention of giving them that chance. She took a folder out of her purse with a calm that contrasted with the chaos around her. "Actually," she said, "the right thing to do is discuss this with human resources. I have copies of everything Owen sent me, and company policy is very clear regarding relationships between supervisors and their subordinates." Marcus's face instantly lost color. "You wouldn't do that." "I already did," Catherine replied calmly. "This morning, I sent all the information from a temporary, unidentified email. By now, I'm sure someone in HR has already reviewed your file." Chloe turned to me, her tone shifting from disbelief to rage in a second. "It was you. You sent that? You want me to lose my job?" "No," I replied calmly. "You caused the consequences. I just made sure the right people were informed." Marcus desperately tried to salvage something already destroyed. "Kat, think about the kids, the house, We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," she interrupted him firmly. "I am filing for divorce, and my lawyer has copies of everything. You will be the one who has to explain to the children why you decided to ruin our family for someone who works for you." At that moment, Chloe grabbed my arm, digging her nails into my skin. "Owen, please, we can fix it. It was just physical. It didn't mean anything." I pulled my arm away. "Then start packing." "What? Right here in front of everyone, you're breaking up with me?" Did you honestly think I could react any other way? As Catherine walked away, leaving Marcus paralyzed in the middle of what was left of his reputation and marriage, I decided to follow her example. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Chloe's broken voice calling my name. "Owen, wait." I didn't stop. I didn't turn my head. I just walked to the parking lot where I found Catherine next to her car, taking deep breaths to maintain control. "Are you okay?" I asked her. She nodded. "I'm better than I have been in months. The uncertainty was worse than the truth. You deserve to know it too." We stood in silence for a few seconds, sharing an understanding that didn't need words. Then, each of us got into our car and drove away. That same evening, when Chloe arrived at the apartment, she found me surrounded by boxes, classifying each of her belongings with precision. I had spent hours organizing everything: her clothes, her books, her kitchen utensils. I had even stopped by U-Haul before coming home and bought boxes, adhesive tape, and bubble wrap. Although I was furious, I couldn't just throw her things in trash bags. It wasn't how I worked. "What are you doing?" she said from the doorway, dropping her purse as if the weight of the day had broken her. "Helping you pack," I replied without raising my voice. "You said it was just physical, so you shouldn't have a problem leaving." "Owen, stop. We need to talk like adults." I continued folding her sweaters and putting them in a box labeled bedroom clothes. "We can talk, but you're moving out anyway." She sat on the edge of the sofa with her arms crossed, watching me as if her life was being dismantled piece by piece. And perhaps, in a way, that's exactly what was happening. "It was a mistake, a huge mistake," she said. But Marcus pursued me. He made me feel valued at work, seen, appreciated, and it just happened. "Things don't just happen, Chloe. Decisions are made. You repeated it for months." I walked over to the bookshelf to separate her books from mine. We had many duplicates, titles we had both read, others that never interested me and that I knew were completely hers. I was being extremely careful. "I was planning to end it," she said in a whisper. "I swear, I just didn't know how." He kept telling me he was going to leave Catherine, that ours would be official. But something always came up. His kids, the mortgage, work. There was always an excuse. "Well," I said, bubble wrapping a photo of her with her college friends. "Now you don't have to worry about that anymore." Her expression shifted to anger. "Are you being cruel?" "No, I'm being clear. It's not the same." She stood up and started pacing the room, completely distraught. "You're going to throw away 4 years for this. 4 years. We had a life, plans, a future. We had a past. You erased it the day you booked a hotel room with your married boss." She tried another approach, this time with tears and a shaky voice. "What are you going to tell people? Your family? Our friends? Jake?" "The truth. That you cheated on me with your married boss, and I ended it." "I'll say you were emotionally controlling," she threatened. "That you monitored my every move, every place I went. That you suffocated me, and that's why I sought affection elsewhere." I stopped packing and pointed to the folder I had left on the kitchen counter. "In that folder I printed your messages. The most compromising ones are underlined. I have backups in 3 different cloud services. You can say whatever you want, Chloe, but I have dates, conversations, hotel confirmations, and messages where you planned everything while I was at work. Choose your words carefully because I will defend myself with facts." She looked at the folder as if it were an explosive about to detonate. Her body lost strength, and she sank back onto the sofa. "I want you to move out in 2 weeks," I continued, resuming what I was doing. "We'll split the rent this month because it's already paid. Then I'll look for a roommate or move to a smaller place. Tonight, I'll send you an email with everything in writing and copy the landlord for the record." She grabbed a tissue and dried her tears with trembling hands. "You're cold. I don't know how you can act like this. You look like a robot." "Don't you feel anything?" I sealed the box of books with adhesive tape and placed it next to the others. "I feel a lot of things, Chloe. But after what you did, I won't let my emotions stop me from doing what I need to do to protect myself." The next 2 days were a constant parade of contained awkwardness, as if the house was suspended in a dense silence that sometimes felt even heavier than the previous arguments. Chloe didn't stay the first night, choosing to sleep at a friend's, which didn't surprise me at all. The next morning she showed up accompanied by her mother, both with stern expressions, ready to start taking boxes as if performing a surgical operation. Her mother looked at me with a cold, almost defiant stare, as if she wanted to blame me for a crime I never committed. Still, I maintained a polite and respectful tone. I wasn't going to lose my composure. I approached to point out each perfectly organized stack of boxes. "Everything is cataloged," I explained. "Chloe's things are on the left side, and on the right, we have the shared items, which we can divide when necessary." Chloe's mother stared at the labels, all clearly written, organized by room and category. Her face changed for an instant, as if something didn't align with the version her daughter had likely told her, probably one where I was little more than a monster. That brief doubt, that involuntary gesture, told me more than any words. However, she said nothing. She simply began moving the boxes to her truck, loading one after another in silence, as if she preferred not to think too much about what she was seeing. The day after, early in the morning, I received an email from the Human Resources Department of the company where Chloe and Marcus worked. The message's style was professional enough to make it clear that someone had already informed them of the problem in detail. "Mr. Owen, thank you for providing information regarding potential policy violations. We take every report with full seriousness and have initiated an internal investigation. Would you be willing to forward the evidence shared with Mrs. Catherine directly to the HR department? This will allow us to expedite the process. The information will be treated with the maximum confidentiality our investigation policy permits." I replied without hesitation, attaching absolutely everything: screenshots, complete conversations, photographs, reservation confirmations, linked schedules. Every piece of evidence that demonstrated what Chloe and Marcus had been organizing behind everyone's backs. I also included the messages where Marcus had charged hotel rooms to corporate cards, 2 of them disguised as client dinners. The timings made it clear that many of those conversations happened during work hours. The way they coordinated each meeting highlighted a detailed, almost professional planning, as if they treated their affair with the same level of precision as their marketing campaigns. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, I received a call from an unknown number. Since I had blocked Chloe's personal number, I assumed it might be her trying to communicate through another means. I answered more out of curiosity than anything else. Her voice sounded tired, worn out. "We were fired," she said without a prior greeting, without sugarcoating. "Both of us." I waited a few seconds before responding, giving her space to continue. "They called us in separately," she added. "They had all the conversations printed out. They said we violated the policy on relationships between managers and staff. There will be no severance or letter of recommendation. It will be recorded in our files." And Marcus's wife showed up after his meeting. She was waiting for him with the divorce papers in hand. "I understand," I replied, trying to maintain a neutral tone. That seemed to irritate her even more. "Is that all you're going to say?" Her voice rose, breaking between frustration and rage. "You could have stayed quiet. You could have just broken up with me. But no, now both of us are jobless. Marcus's wife is going to leave him ruined. And I'll have to explain this in every interview. You ruined our lives." "No, Chloe," I countered firmly, but without raising my voice. "You ruined yours. Marcus ruined his. I just put the truth on the table. Nothing more." There was a thick silence. "I will never forgive you," she finally spat. "I'm not asking you to." I hung up, took a deep breath, and blocked that number too. A few days later, Catherine sent me an email. Her words were grateful, but also full of pain for what her family was going through. "Thank you for everything. I filed for divorce yesterday. My lawyer reviewed the evidence and explained it will be determining for asset division and custody. Marcus tried to say the relationship began when we were already separated, but the timelines contradict him. The children are in shock. They found out from their friends before we could talk to them. I no longer plan to raise them in the middle of lies. You did the right thing, Owen. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Observing the social fallout of the matter was like watching a fire from afar. You weren't inside, but you could feel the heat. Some mutual friends tried to remain neutral. Jake, for example, sent me a careful message. "Hey man, I heard you and Chloe broke up. She said it was complicated and didn't go into detail. What really happened?" I replied with direct sincerity. "She cheated on me with her married boss. I found out, confirmed it, and ended it. That's all." His response was almost immediate. "That's not what she's saying." So I asked him, "What version is she telling?" According to him, Chloe claimed I was controlling, that I monitored her, that I isolated her from her friends, and that she met someone who made her feel free, and I didn't accept it. I sent him a single screenshot, the message where Marcus reserved the usual room. Chloe responded by sending him my complete work and gym schedules. The date corresponded to 3 weeks before I confronted the situation. Jake took a while to reply, but when he did, his tone had completely changed. "God, I had no idea. That is awful. I'm so sorry. Thank you for showing me what really happened." I did the same with anyone who came with distorted versions. A single, precise capture was enough to make things clear. I didn't need to explain further. Chloe, in an evident attempt to control the narrative, posted a message on social media talking about men who use human resources to punish strong women, and surviving your own truth without others repressing you. She received several encouraging comments, especially from people who didn't know the full story. But someone from her company, probably someone who was in the atrium that day, left a direct comment. "This is because the manager was having a relationship with a subordinate, and they were both fired." Because that's not using HR, that's facing consequences. The post disappeared less than an hour later, although her close group continued to repeat the version that suited her best. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. I simply continued with my routines, working, training, keeping my life in order. Jake, my best friend, made sure I didn't isolate myself. Sometimes he'd show up unannounced with takeout, other times he'd suggest watching a movie, and on more than one occasion, he invited me to his recreational league. One night, after hours of playing video games at his place, Jake said something that resonated with me. Enough time had passed that some of my friends were starting to give their opinions more freely. One afternoon, while reviewing some documents in front of the computer, one of them told me, "Seriously, you handled this so much better than most. Anyone else would have lost it, ruined their stuff, written terrible things on social media, or tried to make her look bad to everyone. But you followed a different path. You gathered evidence, let the truth speak for itself, and acted through the right channels. That takes uncommon discipline. I was raised to face problems like an adult," I replied, without looking away from the screen. "Well, your dad did a good job, man. Mine would have suggested slashing their tires and setting fire to Marcus's house." Despite everything, I laughed. "Your dad is a special case, and you don't even know the half of it. He has 2 divorces under his belt and legally can't get within 500 feet of his second ex-wife's property. So maybe he's not the best role model to follow." When Chloe finished moving her things, which took almost 10 days, my rage was no longer a fire. It had become something colder and more defined. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't hate either. It was a firm boundary, an absolute clarity that every step I had taken was the correct one. The apartment suddenly felt wider, quieter. I felt like I could breathe without expecting the next conflict. A month later, I received an unexpected message. "Owen, can we talk? Just once, without drama." I stared at it for a long time. I was about to ignore it, but finally replied, "We can meet Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Maple Cafe. Public place. 1 hour." She only responded, "Thank you." Sunday afternoon, I walked into the cafe and found her at a corner table. She looked different. She had lost weight. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was carelessly pulled back, nothing like her former impeccable style. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no trace of those elegant work clothes she used to wear. "Hello," she said when she saw me approaching. "Hello," I replied while pouring the coffee. A couple of minutes of awkward silence passed until she finally began. "I wanted to apologize for everything, for what I did and for the way I reacted when you found out. I didn't say anything, just took a sip. I lost my job," she continued. "Marcus lost his too. Catherine filed for divorce. He's living in a horrible apartment now. His kids barely talk to him. My parents are disappointed. I'm working part-time at a call center. My life is a mess." "I understand," I said without adding anything else. "I know I caused all of this," she added quickly, as if fearing I would misunderstand her. "I don't blame you for anything. You just spoke the truth. I thought I could manage it. Keep what I was doing at the office separate. Keep you at the same time. Feel valued by what was happening with Marcus. I was wrong." "Yes," I replied. "You were." Her fingers trembled slightly around the cup. "I miss what we had. Owen, you were good to me. You were always there. I didn't value it at the time. I know I don't deserve anything now, but I wanted to know if there's any chance to try again." I immediately thought of everything I had seen. The messages, the hotel reservations, Catherine's exhausted voice that night, and the faces of both of them in that atrium when everything crashed down on them. So I replied without hesitation, "No, there isn't." She flinched slightly, as if hit by a truth she already suspected. "Not even after all this time?" "You faced consequences," I corrected. "That's not the same as changing. Maybe you are different now, or maybe not. But what I do know is that I would never trust you again, and that is reason enough to say no. What you did to me, you also did to a family that was innocent. You did it while telling me you loved me, while Catherine's children thought their father was working. That tells me a lot about what you are capable of doing when it suits you." She lowered her gaze. "I'm alone. Marcus is destroyed. His children despise him. Catherine only allows him to see them under supervision. My friends chose sides, and most didn't choose mine. I feel like I demolished my own life." "You did destroy it," I replied calmly. "And now you'll have to build another one without me." "Then why did you agree to see me?" she asked in a thin voice. "So you could say what you needed to say," I answered. "To know that I listened to you honestly one last time. And I have. My answer is still no." We finished the coffee without adding any more words. When I stood up, she remained in the chair. "Take care, Chloe," I said before leaving. "You too, Owen," she replied, almost whispering. I walked outside on a regular afternoon. I walked to my car, drove home, and that was the end of it. Almost 2 years have passed since that conversation in the atrium. At this point, I feel like everything that happened occurred to someone else. The apartment lease is only in my name. I got a promotion at work last year. I manage the security team now. More responsibility, a better salary, and vacation days that I can actually use without anyone making me feel guilty. Catherine's divorce was finalized a year ago. She kept the family home, and as she told me in a brief but sincere email, she is trying to rebuild a stable routine with her children. Marcus, for his part, was obligated to pay support and can only spend time with the children under supervision, something he agreed to himself to avoid prolonging the legal process. In that message, Catherine thanked me again for speaking the truth when everything came to light. "I'm exhausted, but at least I can breathe," she wrote. "The kids are finding their own rhythm. I hope you're recovering too." Regarding Chloe, the news I receive is rather sporadic. Apparently she remains at the same call center where she started after losing her job. For a while, she tried to work independently in digital marketing, but her professional reputation was too compromised, and few companies wanted to collaborate with her. She now lives in a small apartment she shares with a roommate. Her social media, which used to be full of careful posts and office smiles, has practically gone dark. She barely uploads any isolated photos and almost never writes anything. What little I know about Marcus is through circulating comments. He moved to another state and got a job at a much smaller company than his previous one. His position is lower ranking, his salary is also lower, and he is trying to rebuild his career from the bottom rung. Every now and then, through mutual connections, I see his posts on LinkedIn talking about personal responsibility, reinventing oneself, and learning from mistakes. I don't follow him, nor do I have any interest in doing so, but the platforms show those kinds of things without one seeking them out. And so, with time, everything settled into a safe distance. My days no longer revolve around what happened. I have stability, a calm home, a job where I advance, and a close circle that doesn't depend on anyone else's drama. The past is still there, but it has become a story that I now observe from the outside, as if it happened to someone else, and I only remember the details. The only truly firm thing is the certainty that I made the right decisions and that life, finally, continues its course without unnecessary turmoil.